Great, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming. When I put in the request for this breakout room, I was mostly aiming to have two primary outcomes. If we get any bonus outcomes, that's great too. But the two things that I had on my mind was how can we collaborate on the data piece and have an open data, so we're not both doing the same cleanup processes and things like that. And then I was also gonna open the floor to any feedback, concerns, tips for what you saw during the town hall for the Catalyst. I don't have a name for it yet. Catalyst research tool. So maybe as you come up, you can just say who you are, what you're doing in the space, and then let's get into the discussion. Open data. Yes, go ahead, Joey. How are you?
Good. How are you? I'm here with the Catalyst Circle for tool makers and maintainers, and I do have a question. Yourself and Phil also, you showed your presentations, which are collecting information or similar information on projects. How were you able to collect that? Did you have to cut and paste it, or did you draw it from a data, or how?
Well, I started with AIM's data dump, so maybe Phil can start.
Yeah, the data source all comes out of the Catalyst process. So it's all generated through IOG's processes currently. So basically Marek and Ideascale is kind of the simple answer, but their process is that they have an export process from Ideascale that goes through their structures that then gets fed out into data stores that can run. It's a spreadsheet CSV that's then shared for the CA process, then fed back in, then fed back out to VCA, and then fed back in, and then fed back out again through the voter structure, and then the final result is shared. So
did you need special permissions from IOG for that, or was that already in place?
No, when you're a CA, that information shared. When you're a VCA, that information shared, and then the final vote information is also all published.
Right.
So because Lucio's was actively involved with that process, making it all work, we've kind of had that access to it that we've been dumping onto the GitHub.
So the spreadsheets, you've been pulling that information out of this CSV spreadsheets that they send out.
Yeah, because
okay.
because the CA and the VCA tool, the whole process originally was built using spreadsheets. So we built a tool to digest those spreadsheets to produce the information that the spreadsheets were doing as well.
Okay,
and then the final result comes out in a spreadsheet that then the voter tool is used and the other tools can access. But it's totally inefficient and not the ideal solution, which I think Darlington is well aware of as well. So I'm glad you're bringing this up. It's been one of my pet projects for ongoing, but it is difficult to crack the egg open to get to the juicy insides.
Yeah, it is difficult, and for me, once I get that output that is in the AIMS repo, then I use that data to scrape, basically crawl for additional data, right? Because that output doesn't have all the data, specifically the data that's most important to me as a research tool, which is the proposal detail.
Darlington, technically, and just so you're aware, not that I'm saying you should stop, but it is against Ideascale's terms of use to scrape their data. Just so you're aware of it, but I don't know if anyone's going to stop you from doing that, but it's one of the reasons why we haven't been doing that.
Right, and you know, if it becomes an issue, then I think that will raise a big discussion in the community, right,
Sure.
on having access to that data, because also technically it is IOG's data. So maybe if someone tries to shut it down, we'll see how the community feel about that, and then maybe the data pipeline will become open. I don't know, but that data is super important, and it's important that we have it outside. I think outside of a gated interface. So I guess I'm taking a risk for myself.
Yeah, I'm fully supportive of what you're doing. So if you ever have problems and you need a supporter, I'm right there with you, man. But we've chosen not to do that for that reason.
Count on me as well.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I just want you to know I'm not going to tell anybody where y'all live, so it's cool. You're good. I had a conversation 3 or 4 weeks ago with somebody from Input Output, and he said something to me, and after I walked away from the conversation, I was like, well, I don't know what he meant, but you know, he's basically saying they're working on a formal API so that we can get at all of this information, right? So you can, you know, plug in and grab it, but I don't know how extensive he meant that, and I don't know if he meant 2024, you know, like I have no idea what the scale was on that. It was just that it was on their radar and somebody was thinking about it, but I didn't know who he meant by that. You know, if he meant Marek or somebody else was going to build it.
This was the discussion since like a year or more ago.
Well,
So
I mean,
it's
yeah,
going to happen. It's just what does it look like, and when are the two big questions.
Right. So,
yeah, I mean,
yeah, Steve. So I'm aware of this conversation too. I haven't seen anything come to fruition about it. And what I'm hoping to push, and I tried. This is my second go around at pushing the open data. I've tried before with George and Lucio, and we've sat with IOG and Merrick and Chris. This is sort of my second time at the problem, right? So the folks over at Dandelion are building a distributed hosting solution, right? So having this data available in a structured way makes it easy for people who are participating in that network to also host the Catalyst API data, right? I plan to host it. I plan to make everything that you see on the dashboard that I showed you available at a REST API that people can access and pull. But I will like, I guess, to have some sort of data guild or group or whatever that can tackle this problem of get the data and get it hosted, so that tool makers can have access to it and build on top of it.
I mean, Stephen's here. So where would you host that data if you were hosting it?
Well, in the first instance, well, I think the data should be under an open license. What kind of license it should be maybe up for debate, but it should be hosted on an open repository or a set of open repositories, whether that's community hosted. It should be completely open source, of course. But there are some caveats with that. I think some people raised that in terms of maybe some legal issues with privacy. People like to submit, particularly in a decentralized environment, there might be like the need to submit anonymously a proposal, which is an interesting concept, and might feed into DIDs later on, you know. So, but my position, I really support what Leader Nation is doing and others are doing, and the more that we have open source data on repositories that everyone can access, so that we can build our own auditability, we can you know, we don't have to have a middle person, you know, the better.
Yeah, go ahead, Felix, and then Joey.
I think Joey was first.
I just Okay, I'll just start.
Yeah,
And
sounds good.
Thank you, Felix. So a couple of things. Harris Warren, he's on the circle with IOG. And he recently got back from Colorado where they had the big meeting and the letter from the community he took and presented out there. Now, he said that they have some more information they're going to be sharing with us, but he didn't give a timetable for that. And some of that was some new APIs, et cetera. As well, I spoke to Harris about meeting with Phil in particular about the data issues and concerns there. And he's willing to listen to the community and discuss what your concerns are with the data so that maybe we can do something in the future.
Can I just quickly address the API issue? The API issue doesn't solve the open data problem.
Right.
It solves to some extent the access data problem, but it will only solve the part that the API accesses to. But
right.
in the ongoingness of this project, it can't that can't be the solution. So we can use a solution like an Ideascale API, but the real solution has to be an open and manageable, which is that part of the anonymous did. And how do you share do you share email, not email? How do you choose each individual proposer to do this? And at the moment we're dealing with centralized systems, and we need to slowly, if that's the way it has to be done, take those away. And that's the question. So the API isn't the solution, it's a solution. And it's probably the solution IOG's working on because that's what they can work on.
Exactly. And you'll be able to discuss all that with Harris when you guys meet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
Sir Felix, what you got?
Yeah, because well, maybe we can learn also a little bit from our actions in the past, because Darling has to, I love to call you Darling. It's better than Darling. Because Darling, as you mentioned already, you, George, Lucio, Phil, Victor, there have been a bunch of attempts already to getting some API access or whatnot with IOG. But I think we each time failed as community a little bit, because for IOG, I think it's difficult as well to go to an individual, make a deal with them, say, because, well, they would also be in a difficult situation, right? And now we have a more evolved ecosystem and all. And maybe also to say, hey, maybe much more looking on the process, how can we effectively get IOG to a position where if it's already a very first API access, it's great because it's the low-hanging fruit, they're working on it already. But maybe in a process which can be repeated and which makes a little bit more sense than just going as individuals to IOG, trying to get the stuff done. Which one saying what we made with the DREPS letter, for example. When you go for, hey, we need API access, yeah, which API, why exactly, for what, right? There are a bunch of questions which have to be answered. And now we have two possibilities. I think we try the same approach like last time, or we say, oh, okay, let's establish a process, because this call will be done in 1 hour or something like this, right? And what happens then? I'd love to propose to take a little bit the same approach like what we did with the DREP letter as well, Joey. Some people who are sure to set up a nice document explaining, hey, which API access do you need and for what, and what do you want to do with, and everything. Well formulated, well defined, well thought out, and through the catalyst circle then represented directly to IOG already, because therefore we have the circle, right, to facilitate communications and actions between stakeholder groups. And with this, not only having a desired outcome, or let's say what we want to achieve, but also process on which you can rely and can say, and if there are future parts, because there will definitely come more, where the community would love to have some more insights on, we can repeat and adjust the process each time, do the things we need. But maybe stopping to running everybody for its own to IOG and say, I need this, and I need this, and we need this, and we need this. A bit more coordination could change the things a lot, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. Maybe you guys, Phil and some of the other fellows, Darlington, you guys could self-organize and come up with a document like that, so it'd be easier to present that to Harris, so that he could read it and digest it and maybe take it back to Colorado as well.
I shared that parallel processing document. Did you have a read of that at all, Joe? No. Okay. I'll share that with Harris as well. And I was just
Yeah.
thinking on that, Darlington, we can meet up. I'm in the process of meeting with Harrison in the next week or so. So if you'd like to join that meeting, I'll send you an invite to that.
Yeah, that would be great. And I just quickly, and then Jonathan here, Felix, I felt like correct me if I'm wrong, but I think George did help come up with a document, a specific data and what we wanted as well. I'll reach out to him to see if we can iterate on that. But
that was the API access document though, but realistically, we also, if that's the first step, we also need to understand what the next step is of what's the points that IOG needs to be covered off on to be able to release this into the community hands, right? Like what is the list of, from their point of view, that will trigger that, like, so that we can all work on that to solve that problem, right? IOG has a list. They don't know what the problems are right now, but we need to ask for that list for them. They need to go away, think about it, and go, what is it that we need from the community to allow this to happen, right? And we need to work in tandem with them to get this to happen, right? Because we have our own view. We need it open. We need it on an open license. We need it on an open platform. We need access to it, and it needs to be secure. So, but IOG will have their own list of what's needed.
that makes sense. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, I was just going to pretty much say that. It sounds like what we're battling with is IOG are conscious of risk. And so they're not just going to throw the data out there, which is sensible. But what we should probably do as a community, because we've got all the skills within ourselves to architect the ideal solution, probably we should be doing that as some sort of working group that architects the solutions that we think we need, what portions of the data need to be siloed behind a future DID solution as it appears, and take that to Harris and IOG and say, you know, this is what we think, this is the data we think is safe to release to us now. Can we just have it in a clean way rather than having to do scraping and stuff like that? And then see what their response is. And then it's a document that it's probably their legal department, isn't it, that will go through it and say, okay, do we agree with this? No, this area of data is gray, borderline. Let's bring that into a safe zone rather than a release zone, and that sort of stuff. And then it creates a sort of progression towards a state. Okay, cool. When DIDs are here, we can hide all this behind some, self-sovereign solution, and this is a data that actually we can safely release now, tidily. And it strikes me because there's a working group within Gimbal Labs at the moment that's got transparency data structures as its sort of core. TiVo is in the middle of that, and bringing talent in from those guys into some sort of working group would be really. Steve and QA-DAO obviously would just be really paramount to it, I think, as well. And then the pull from you, Phil, and Darlington, in terms of the data we want, and also the community as well. There's loads of stuff we want to just ask and find out and query. I love your tool, Darlington. It's awesome. It's a whole new level of access it's given, which is really cool. And I love the fact that there are 2 voted tools as well, to say it while I've got the mic, because everything is open. All data is open to interpretation, and we need to have many heads bringing out the data so that it's interpreted by many different people. Otherwise, we get a story being told by an individual organization or person. And this is the true decentralized beauty of having multiple factors, multiple actors building out tools. It's perfectly.
Yeah, I can't stress that more. Just having multiple tools, as pulling from the same data. Let's keep going. Go ahead, Steven. You're
Steve,
muted,
can you read?
Steven.
Sorry.
I think he dropped off the. Joey?
Yeah, thank you, Darlington. Okay, yeah, I think just picking up on Jonathan's point that the level of risk. I think IOG look at the community, the wider community, and see what is the level of advocacy for something and what is the maturity of that advocacy that's going forward. Like, for example, how well informed is the community about open data, about the use of that, about the use of these tools that are emerging. And I think you picked up, I think you mentioned, Darlington, this on the Twitter space the other day when you talked about LIDA Nation looking at intent and looking at the dashboard that you're producing. And things like that are key because this will show the obviously that's going to be quite sensitive to interpretation, but also it's an opportunity for the community to become more sophisticated in how it assesses proposals in the proposal ecosystem and then ultimately governance and the use of treasury. So I think we can create a momentum outside of IOG, not so much all work on the same level or the same, but just becoming well informed about what each of us are doing and advocating for open data and checking into each other's interpretations and having conversations about how to interpret the data.
Sorry, typing.
That's a good point. Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up. Now, Harris has committed to listen. He hasn't committed to make any changes at this point, but he is concerned about privacy. That's one of the things that he brought up right away. So, you know, when we approach him, I think, you know, it's okay to just talk to him now and plant a seed. But I think Felix is right. You got to put together something that says, hey, this is how we're going to address privacy and security, and this is how we're going to address all the community issues. So just to throw that out there.
Darlington, can I ask you a question about your concept of providing a REST API? How would you host the vast amount of data that's being generated by Catalyst?
So right now, it would be hosted in a Postgres database, but that's not what I would like to have long term. I think long term, I would like to deliver a few hosting options specifically for that Dandelion IA network. It's really the environment I imagine this data living long term. So it's not one person hosting it, but anybody who's participating in that network can choose to host this data, and they can have a few things to choose from. So the data will be represented much like the way it is now with the breakout into JSON files. And so as a host, you could choose to write a script and put that in a database. You could choose to use systems that are file-based that just reads and provide them that way. But right now, the API that I'm planning on having available will be hosted in Postgres.
And where? On what server?
On Google Cloud, on Kubernetes.
Okay.
So one thing that I wonder about, you know, when we have this discussion about, you know, what's the best way to approach input output about this is, you know, I feel like we need clarity about the difference between what's going to be available on chain when it migrates from Jormungandr to the protocol, and what that implies about Ideascale itself because of the information available in Ideascale. You know, like there's been this fuzzy grayness about Ideascale and how much control we have or do not have over it. And, you know, there's a whack of info in there, you know, built into it. And whether that's, you know, coming from the users or it's feedback coming from the chain, you know, like I don't sense a lot of clarity about that kind of stuff. And I think that all has to kind of be integrated into the package, you know, once the community takes over. But then that gets then seriously to the questions of privacy, what are we calling private and what are we not calling private? And, you know, filtering that properly.
See, I'd imagine that we can work on some sort of sidechain implementation that collects the data and then does some transactions on the Cardano blockchain to register. But it doesn't make sense to do the entire Catalyst process on the main chain anyway.
Yeah, right. There's got to be a way to filter, right, between Ideascale and even if it's going to a side chain to the main chain. You know, there's.
But I mean, we can't build for Ideascale, right? Because they have their own data models, data structures. My ideal situation is that we create a working group, and engage the broad community and IOG to create essentially a Catalyst protocol that records the data on chain. And then if Ideascale wants to build to be able to feed into that, that's fine. If you're talking about the existing data, well, hopefully IOG owns that and will release, and we can transition over to the new system with the data set that they want to transition, that makes sense to transition. So
yeah. I didn't mean to imply that all the data from Ideascale, you know, was moving or should move to the chain. I just meant there's data there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's a huge
valuable
data.
data.
It's a huge data store, and it, as I say, it belongs to Ideascale and in theory belongs to IOG, but should belong to the community and should be accessible for us to manipulate and change and work with and report and audit and check and build tools for. So,
right. Well, I'm a big fan of this working group, and it sounds like you might have something in the pipeline already, Phil, that I can join and be another voice in that effort. If you hit me up, that would be great.
yeah, can you ping me? Can you ping me on Discord or Telegram just so I can? I did ping you on Telegram the other day, actually.
Oh,
but,
Telegram.
Right.
Let me open that thing.
That's right. If you're on Discord, I'm on Discord as well. So I wasn't sure who you were on Discord, so I found you easier on Telegram.
Okay. What are you on Telegram?
Philip K, I think, or Phil K or something.
Oh, Steve, are you saying something? Sorry. Okay, I pinged you. Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the comment. I know there's a concern about privacy, but spreadsheets is probably the worst way to promote privacy, because everybody's got these spreadsheets and they're out there with everything on them. So just throw that out there.
Totally.
Right, and so that's the next, a bit of feedback about the tool that as it is now and the data that's in there. So the tool only have data that I have the access to, right? Like it doesn't have any privileged information. And then even with this fund, IOG dropped the login wall. So all of that data is public now. Like anybody can just open an Ideascale link and see all that information. That is the current state of Ideascale. So in that sense, I don't know if that paywall is going to come up, that login wall is going to come up again.
It'll come back up.
Okay, right.
That's the current structure.
But it seems like there's at least the thinking on Ideascale on IOG's end that the proposal details and that stuff that everybody can view is not private. And I like to hear what you guys think, because that's how I'm treating it too. I'm treating that as like public information that has a different standard of privacy than, say, your wallet address or any of the other fields that currently isn't available to other Ideascale users. go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, it may be public, but there's a difference between public information and then possible the legality of using that information, reproducing the information. So I suppose that's what I don't know the answer to. I don't know what the IDT in terms of conditions are for the use of data. I'm not sure what they've generally known. Do you know that, Phil?
Technically, it's a no, as far as I know. But
the legality is going to change all over the world. Every country is going to have something different.
Yeah, that's right. There are already European regulations on the use of any personal data. So I don't know. It's just something to bear in mind. That's all. But if it's related to proposals, I suppose you could make anonymous the names. That's one way you could get around that, maybe. I'm not sure. So it's just something to bear in mind.
yeah, and I guess this is where you need that DID, because you need the self-sovereign ability to choose that, right? Those that want to be knowable should be, and those that don't shouldn't be. And like they say, the right to be forgotten is an important right in European law as well. So how does that all work? Yeah, probably needs exploration.
So that right to be forgotten thing, right? So right now I've been treating that data as immutable. So even all of the additional tooling that that's on the roadmap, where people can claim the proposal and provide additional information about it, those information will not augment the proposal as it was written in Ideascale. Like, you will not have the ability to edit it. I don't edit it, right? And so, I mean, it doesn't live on the blockchain for it to really be immutable. I guess I don't know how the right to forget comes in, because I have gotten one request to remove a proposal, and my response was, I can't do that. It's
Yeah, I mean, it depends how brave you are, Don. I would wait. I would wait for legal action on it. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not a legal expert, and I mean, I think the innovation is to concentrate on transparency of proposals. This is what you're doing, which is very valuable. Okay, and that should be the community's main emphasis, however painful that may be for some of us. And because it's needed, but that's not going to get away from, it's not about, even if the data is immutable, you're still presenting the data in different countries around the world, and there will be different legal frameworks depending upon what that data says and who is associated with and all that kind of thing. So if it's someone, I don't really know the answer to that.
Maybe you need to allow your own retainer.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Yeah. Am I missing something? Is there anything on Ideascale that counts as personally identifiable information? Like when it comes to the European Union stuff and the privacy stuff, we're talking about personally identifiable information. If I choose to go on there as Stephanie King from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and this is my address, like that's my choice, I guess. I could use that could be my handle. But if I'm on there as Fuffy King, I mean, certain people could track me down. They know who Fuffy is. But you know what I'm saying? Like we're on there as @Lidonation, and you know who we are now, but if we weren't out there, you wouldn't know that.
You'd have to look at the terms of service that Ideascale is offering, though, because they are the data holder under European law, for instance. So, and IOG is legally responsible for that data as the initiator of the creator of the project. So
right.
there is legal issues in there, especially.
So maybe is it a matter perhaps of separating out what are the legal issues as it pertains to a particular website and their terms of service, or IOG owns the data and what are their terms and conditions around it, versus this a little bit more broad universal question of legality in different countries? That's a separate like framework, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and because because personally identifiable information is becoming more and more of a misnomer, because you need so few data points to be able to find someone when you're using machine learning, that it's almost like, well, if you've ever said anything anywhere, then you're findable. So yeah, and this is a sort of thing that I think, okay, if we're probably as aware as anybody of where these vulnerabilities are, if we can actually be designing out a data system that is thinking about these things and presenting that as part of the handover request or package or movement with IOG, then that gives us, that puts us further down the road than them going back to the legal department, coming back and saying no all the time. It's a case of actually these guys are thinking about what it is. And yeah, there's plenty of machine learning engineers in the community as well who could really, probe and test this and say. And also we've got legal guys. Maury's a lawyer, so there's a whole load of tools that we can get hold of people we can get hold of, skills we can get hold of.
I'll just comment that the tools as built currently have been built to avoid the privacy issues. So the reason why you have to submit through a form your CA and your VCA responses is so that we're not responsible for any data holding. Just so that's been a conscious choice on our part so that we don't have to deal with that. Of course, just not dealing with it is an option as well. So as I said, I'm supportive of your work, Darlington. Just be aware that there is factors outside of the desired openness that come into play.
Right. Well, the nice thing about this work, if the data needs to be acquired a different way, right? And this is the beauty of this. These are just tools into the data. If the data needs to be acquired a different way, it's just a dump and replace situation. At least that's my working wisdom. That the tool will still be useful if there was legal action and a shutdown for 2 weeks, and then that prompts IOG to finally give us access to some of that data. I can just run a script again to repopulate the database and have the tool back up. So there's value in at least refining these presentations and these user interfaces. And as Jonathan said, the storytelling of this data. So I'm inclined definitely to keep going in that direction while we're having the data discussion. And if I need to hit the pause button, that can happen too.
And in some ways, we're still technically small enough that, if someone's got an issue, you can kind of flesh it out, or, we're still
right.
We're still able to communicate with each other on a one-on-one basis. But maybe when we talk to, well, maybe not at this point, but yeah, something to consider anyway.
Well,
Go ahead, Joey, and then Stephanie.
Yeah, I would, again, I wouldn't let that be a showstopper, whatever you're doing. I think, again, you guys are correct that most of the people in the community are reasonable. If they want you to take their data down or something, they'd probably do that. But Harris has agreed on our code of conduct to run that by IOG's legal team. So it may be, as you move forward, Phil, and with this proposal to him, that it's a legal question about privacy and all, that maybe IOG would, they're a global company. They've got to be faced with this all the time. So.
Stephanie?
Yeah, I think most people are in this room seem to be in agreement about the value of what we're doing. I was just gonna add to that, just the idea that this pushes the conversation. We're here having the conversation. If entities that don't like how we're doing it, they have something to respond to and something to say, okay, well, we don't like how they're doing it. how do we want them to do it? And are, you know, can we advance that conversation just by pushing it along? So yeah, you know, if there was a break, if there was a pivot in how, in exactly what data is being presented and how that's fine. But I bet that conversation and that timeline is being advanced by just pushing it down the road a little bit.
Right. Good point. Yes, Stephen.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to echo that. It's a kind of like what we're doing, not just you, London, but other tools, is a process of discovery. Okay, so we don't really know what we're going to find. So, you know, discovering what data we can use, what open data we use, how can you use the data for auditability? What duty of care do we have? What capability do we need to understand the data? So we're going to, you know, things may break. You know, we're going to find out things along the way that will blow back on us sometimes. You know, we make mistakes on this, and it's just being ready for that and being you know, so it's like, as Stephanie is saying, it's advancing the conversation, but the conversation is going to be difficult at times, you know, and you know, because we are not quite sure of the territory, but keep pushing down the territory would encourage that.
Were your ears burning, Harrison?
Hi, Harris.
They were. I felt a burning need to jump into this room and say hello. There was a really great dialogue and discussion going on in the main room. So that's I was definitely a part of wanting to hear that and listen and participate. But yeah, no, definitely thrilled you guys are having this discussion. I'm sorry that I'm so late to the party, but definitely I'm hoping to get caught up on some things. You know, there's definitely some great work we're trying to do in the on the IO side in terms of building some proper documentation of our open APIs and the direction that we're headed, and actually make more of these APIs available. So it's something I wanted to at least come in and make a statement. It's something I've mentioned in the past, but we're getting closer to actually having something we can release on GitHub and actually make that available to the community. That's better documented, because I know there's a lot of nuggets that this group here has actually uncovered and figured out how to use, and solve some of the the troubles with lack of documentation. But we are bringing some of that into the fray, and we hope to expand that and make it a little bit easier for developers to come and pick up these APIs and use them. So there's some cool things, and it's focused around open APIs, around governance, and specifically Catalyst and those features as well. So a lot of the APIs are currently open, just not documented well. So I just wanted to come in and make that quick update, let you know that we are actively working on that. We should make that available soon to the community and get your feedback for sure. Yeah, Joey.
Yeah, Harris, I just wanted to share with you that I shared with this community here that you are willing to listen and take comments on some of their ideas. And I think already Phil has reached out to you to discuss some things about data and et cetera. So just so you're aware of that.
Yeah, I sincerely apologize if I'm slow to respond, Phil, but
that's okay. I just send it today, so don't worry about it.
All right, yeah.
But it is expanding, because I think Darlington might join us as well for that conversation.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, it's so great to see you guys come out with your amazing tools, and definitely want to support that. And I know Merrick and the team have definitely tried to feed data streams your way, and we can try to make that easier and better in the future.
Do you have some idea of whether these open APIs are going to be connecting into Ideascale or into some other sort of data store? Is that something you can share with us?
Yeah, I think we have some hooks directly into Ideascale, that's my understanding. So often a lot of the APIs that we make available are sitting in a different data store. So that's my understanding, where it's not like, direct line access in Ideascale, but a version of it that's been replicated, to date. And some of that content's available, in the surfacing station. I think there can be even more that's available in a few other tools, and we want to expose more of those. And so as we're developing new capabilities, we're wanting to maintain this open API model, and everything we build is got an API associated with it as we're proceeding forward and looking at DREPs and some of these other capabilities. Those are some of the things we're going to be exposing, as well as some of the other features that already exist that need to be updated and maintained and improved. So, but yeah, definitely happy to have open dialogue and discussion. If you guys want a separate breakout discussion, I'm certainly interested to hear what your needs are and make sure we're taking that in as input into building better documentation and tools that enable you guys to build great things.
I guess part of this though is the appetite. Did you have something to say, Joey? Oh no. Okay. Part of this, I think, is the appetite that the data also, like not just APIs, but as much as possible, where possible, the data needs to be opened and accessible. And that's kind of the discussion that we're driving forward, that there's the current situation, there's the immediate or hopefully soon solution, but going forward, I guess some of us are sitting here going, what does the absolute future look like when IO is not controlling data? How do we as a community participate and manage and maintain the privacy issues that Joey's mentioned you're majorly concerned about and that sort of stuff? So that's kind of the extension of this discussion, that it's not just the immediate future of getting those data that you're looking at, but what's next after that.
Yeah, and I mean, we certainly expect to see some type of organization of technical folks aligned that can have some oversight over at least making proper judgment, that's outside of input output, and can help facilitate. Okay, we want to make this change. We have this new data stream. We want to make it available, and then there's proper entities around that can support it to help make some legal discussions and decisions and make sure we're doing right by the privacy of the community and others. And privacy is a big issue for sure, and something that already exists today. Like, okay, yeah, we've got these great tools. We're highlighting individuals. Some of the things that we're introducing with DREPs is the fact that you've got to sign a privacy policy before you can be a DREP. And you have to be open to the fact that all of your data is going to be shared, and your voting history and exactly what it is that you're doing. And so this is a newer concept, but we're actually working on making sure that we have that available and is clear that you're actually signing a transaction and saying, yes, I know that my information is going to be available, and you become more of a public figure. We still want to protect the people that want their anonymity and don't want to be exposed. And, maybe you're known as a wallet or a pseudonym or some kind of username, but it's something that, we want to, keep it open. But yeah, there will be this future state, and that's going to start to develop this year and into next year. And there will be sort of, we're going to keep really an open source type model and making sure that there can be multiple contributors to that. But the entities and the structures of how that's actually set up are being developed right now. So lots of discussion, and it's keeping us very busy at IO for sure. And we'll be sharing a lot more details in the coming months. Cool.
Well,
So,
that sounds great. That was you sort of joined the party at the very end, but it sounds like we'll hopefully be talking to you very soon here again, Harris, for some of this data piece. The other piece, we don't need to have this on the YouTube recording, but if anybody here has some additional feedback for the stuff we're working on, feel free to send them to email, Discord, Telegram, Twitter, on all the place. That would be great. Any concerns? I know there's been some concerns brought up already about how some of this data is aggregated. And there's already plans to respond to some of that and add more granularity to the presentations that we have right now. But if there's anything along those lines, if you get hints of any stories that's being told that may made skewed information unintentionally, stuff like that. We would love to hear some of that feedback. So.
I have some feedback about that.
Okay. Let me whip out my note. Go ahead.
Well, the nature of AIM means that we're across multiple projects. So the way that data is presented on your website looks like have these mega amounts sitting on a mega amounts of money. And I've had questions put forward about this, but the reality is that we're these individuals like everyone else here, just doing our thing. So I wonder about so if there's multiple proposals on funds and you're counting that across multiple individuals, you're saying granulation is going to fix that. How do you imagine that would work?
Well, the one granulation data that I want to show right now is if you add a person's report card, that you see what they were the primary proposer for, and you see that number breaking up. So you get the primary proposal, and then you get the one that were co-proposers on. I'm inclined to show an aggregation of anything that a person has put their face on, because putting your name on proposals carries trust and like has weight to have voters see the proposal. And so in my mind, if you put your face on a proposal, you should also be part of that inclusive accountability of making sure that proposal delivers on its intention. So I'm inclined to show that data as well, but I also want to differentiate between who were your primary aggregation versus your group aggregation.
Mm-hmm. And that's the extent of your granulation, or you're looking to even go deeper than that? How deep can you go?
That's the next immediate thing. And then the only other thing was showing it at a so you see the big number, and then you see a little bar graph that breaks down on a per fund basis, that if you interact with, it showed you that exact amount for the fund. So those are the two immediate things. I don't have further down the line to that. I've heard people brought up being able to report things like how funding was distributed and show that information. That is a whole new category that I would like to think through and maybe talk to some of you folks on what's the best way to do that, and how to get that information back either into the AIMS repo or a different open source repo that has that same JSON structure with all that data in there. But I'd love to hear if there's any other levels of granularity that would be good that exist in the data right now. I would love to hear that.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
So granularity is a word. I'm not even sure I know what it means right now. So the human behind all the charts that you've been seeing going out on Twitter is me. And we are this party is just getting started. And what I want to like raise to our thoughts about this is that so in one, I pulled the data that Darlington had and put, started putting charts on it. And in one kind of quick session over the weekend, I made about 80 charts based on Catalyst data. And I feel like I'm just getting started. Like, I just still feel like there's just these holes of things that lenses I haven't even put on it yet. And it's really fun. And each and every one of those 80 charts, and we're just getting started, is another little piece of the story. And so, let's just kind of keep going on this journey together. Phil, I love your feedback. And I would just encourage, you and everybody to like keep at it with the feedback. Like when you look at a chart, you had a question about a chart that you saw, Phil, right? Like, well, this chart makes it look like this. great question. Like, not everybody's gonna have that insight when they look at the chart. And we need to share that. And like, okay, what does this chart mean? This chart means that these people, you know, have their fingers in these different pies. What does that tell us? I also want to, I think when we start seeing our own, you know, stuff out there, there's a little bit of like a, like, what are people gonna see? And let's bear in mind too, that there's let's say we're looking at a chart of people who have submitted a lot of proposals, or a chart that of people who have won a lot of proposals, or who have won a lot of money. What are the lenses we could look at that with? Is it, I think the fearful one is, ooh, I'm gonna be under the microscope now, and you know, what's the word? Auditability is coming for me. And that's fair, you know, right? That's part of it. I think another part of it is like, oh, these guys are my heroes. Like, this is who I want to follow. This is who I want to learn from, right? So I think that's part of the story that I'm interested in. I think part of the story is like, oh, look at, you know, what are they doing? I voted for their one proposal, but it looks like they have a lot more. I need to go check. And I want to support everything they're doing. Just as an example, I'm picking an example of one of the ones that I think caused some nervousness. But every single chart has, you know, it's one lens out of many, and there are multiple interpretations. And so let's be here for it. It's going to be fun.
Stephen and Felix, are you going to address any of that, or? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think first of all, I say this is fascinating because it's addressing some real auditability issues in a decentralized environment that we're going to have to confront sooner or later. Ownership of proposals. Okay, who owns the proposal, and what are they responsible for? What do they get paid? I've been owned. Sometimes I feel I've been lumped with some proposals where I manage quite a lot of people, you know, in them, like say 8 to 10 people per proposal. Looks like a lot of money. I don't get a penny. I do a hell of a lot of work. I've had feedback recently that people say, why should I get involved in governance? Because this spotlight is going to be put on me, which is going to misrepresent me. Why should I bother? I've done all this work, all the attention that people get on social media. Is social media the appropriate platform for this, for auditability? Where's your audit trail? My donation, AIM. I'm not being accusative of this here, but I'm just pointing this out. If you start auditing people or judging them, you know, assessing them, you have a responsibility. You are accountable as well. You know, if you misinterpret something, where do I go? If you've made a mistake, who do I speak to? What are you focusing on? Where's the records of what you're focusing on? For example, a lot of discussion about statistics here, but not much about the text of the proposal. What's going on in the proposal? What's the intent of the proposal? This has led to discussions actually amongst people I've been speaking to about the nature of the proposal itself, which is really interesting because this has provoked this. It's like, should we be more transparent about the hours worked by individuals? Like, for example, I may be an owner of a proposal and do lots of hours, but not get paid for that, and other people. Should that be, you know, part of the proposal framework itself? So this could inform how the proposal framework is developed in future as well. So it's really on the immediate thing of ownership of proposals. One immediate suggestion I could suggest from a statistical point of view is that if you have a proposal owner and you have 8 people also who are co-proposers, then that's some indication that that's not just that one person, that is the other person. So that kind of mitigates the amount of things they're involved in. It's different from, say, one proposer owning everything themselves, for example. So, but that's what comes to mind. but I think this is great because this brings up issues that, I mean, because I'm involved in auditability as well, and there are lots of sensitivities. People hate something, as you say, Stephanie, there's different reactions, isn't there? You know, some people hate being put under the microscope, some people love it. There's an accountability issue for the community, which we need to address. Of course we do, you know, and, you know, great.
This is some great points. Go ahead, Felix.
Definitely want to go on with what Stephen said. Already can second or want to second everything what he just mentioned. Because for example, you know, just in the town hall, when you run through the example and I hope randomly you picked my name, I was just thinking, shit. What I do now is waiting for a shitstorm coming from people who say, Felix Weber requested 1.2 million and you made 38 proposals, right? And saying, yeah, like what Stephen said, do you actually know what I earn out of this? Because it calculates, I think, the problem here is really what Stephen touched on is when everybody is able to audit what others do, we first have to define which already which information have an easy access. I think what you do really well is having a really comfortable access on very objective data on your platform. But it doesn't include an easy access of the stuff what is actually going on. And this requires a lot of work. And 90% of the people who are using your website and who make their observation or their opinion based on really simple statistics to which you provide a really easy access, they won't never go in a proposal and check what is, there's maybe one proposer, but in the challenge itself, there are 4 people or 6 people or 10 people. They are not listed as proposer. And very often you coordinate proposals and you're not even the executors, like with the Eastern Town or Latin Town or whatnot, right? And those data, which is extremely important also to measure success of a project, is extremely difficult to gather because already it's difficult to gather them and it's even more difficult to display them. But I think it's really crucial if we want to ensure that when as many people as possible have the, let's say, possibility to audit proposals or projects, then on a way which ensures that their opinion is made on a quality way, not on a comfortable way. So this is my experience, but I love your tool. And for me, it raises a lot of new challenges, really. I see, for example, in Catalyst, especially the veterans, we became kind of arrogant because we said, yeah, our auditability is our practice. And the people in Catalyst, they see all the time what we are doing and what we are building. Now you provide a really easy access and directly on Twitter. And I am there saying, shit, I was very ignorant of this part of auditability to say, yeah, hey, the really broader community need to understand what I do. And I think also from the proposal side, you force them really to redefine their audit progress in regard to themselves. So you raised a huge challenge, man. Thanks for this. But fuck, it's a huge challenge.
Really
Thanks.
good points there, taking lots of notes. Go ahead, Phil.
Thanks, Felix. I'd like to add to some of the things you've said, some of the things that Stephen's already pointed out as well. From what you're saying, Stephanie, if you're offering a lens, it's important to understand that there's perceptions outside of ours and outside of yours. And if you're offering a lens, there's a responsibility when you offer that lens. What's already happened since your tool's launched and since you've gone on this large campaign of sending data out there is that a lot of people have latched onto very insufficient information and have used it to craft less than ideal criticism towards what we've been spending a long time to build. So a lot of us have been here for a long time. A lot of us, like, your data doesn't show how long I've been here for, how many people I've participated, how many people I've onboarded, how many conversations I've had. You can't do this, of course, but the way your data is presented and the way people can read this data, just with the lens that you're offering, there's no context or minimal context to what the reality. That's what Felix was pointing out. There's a whole structure of stuff that's already in existence. I personally have felt disheartened in the last week, and it's partly because of some of the data that you've put out there. And it's okay. I understand. I need to adjust. I need to deal with things. But other people also have felt like there's been some specific attacks done to specific people in the community because of because of your data. So the responsibility on presentation, on explanation, and to understand that your data is setting a lens, and to present that that lens is the lens, and so that people can understand this and say, you need to, before you jump on this story that I'm presenting you, you need to explore the broader understanding. Go talk to those people that you're just about to attack, that sort of thing. So just please understand that there's elements of what you're doing. It's great. It's fantastic for auditability. I'm in complete support of the existence of your platform. I'm in complete support of, like, openness is an amazing space, but responsibility for the presenter needs to be understood. Just quickly on some of the things that could help. You present completed, past, and proposed. You need the last pieces unsuccessful, so that people can see how many proposals that I haven't put through, rather than at the moment it's all lumped into proposed. So if I go and propose 10,000 proposals, but are unsuccessful in all of them, then that needs to be presented, I think.
Oh yeah, yep. We have some charts on that. It's hard to tell. It's
on your user interface, on the
okay.
per user,
very good.
per user thing. Yeah. So the charts and data are a different issue. I think you've got, that's kind of a marketing and an interesting thing that you're doing. Please understand that there's responsibility in that, but also in the actual platform.
Talk about within the voter.
People are going to come.
The report cards, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because people are going to come from your marketing and come and explore and go, hang on, look, this person's got 10,000, 100,000, 1.2 million, whatever, right? So that needs to be repaired so that people can get a full picture. Also, maybe information about when that someone joined, although there's privacy issues maybe in that, but that's interesting information so that someone can see how long someone's been proposing in this structure, because it matters if I asked for 1.5 million and I've only been here one fund compared to someone who's been here over many.
Like how many funds, or
how many funds,
earliest
when they
funds of
started.
participation?
That's coming. That's coming. The joining part, because you will see when the first amount was received, and also before Harris go here, the other piece of work, so granularity down, but then also further abstraction up. Like, we would like to be able to show these groups affiliations of, like, you're part of a collective, you're part of a group. So if you're looking at one person, it says this person is part of this group, and they can click to that group page. And that's where you get into some of the stuff like intentions and story that those groups, I'm hoping, can help me tell, can help the site tell, and things like that. And like be able to hook into things like, you know, GitHub and any other ways of reporting what's happening. Some of the stuff that's in the completion data, where you can see that on that page and say, hey, this is the effort that this person is contributing to. But definitely the unsuccessful, that's a good thing to communicate to. Phil, go ahead, Harris.
Yeah, it's definitely data is king, and it's sort of key to accountability and making things available. I'm a huge fan of self-service charts and analytics, right? If we can, have a repository, a central repository that we can all contribute to in different aspects, and then actually have the ability to have the community do self-service, can expose better auditing capabilities really across the board. So it is a really interesting discussion. I certainly want, we need to, make people feel safe and protected. We do want to call out bad actors and people that are having affiliations in a lot of places. And, these tools can really make it easy to see that, especially if the data is getting captured, right? So some of, like, do we have permission to even share a user's data? Like, we don't really have much terms and conditions sort of set by the community for this, right? Is everyone participating in this okay with having that exposure, right? there's definitely some legal questions. And so there is some things that are attached to Ideascale directly. There's some things that we need to establish as a community in terms of, okay, what is shareable, what's not shareable. There's certainly privacy, and we all want to sort of abide by GDPR at least, but also common sense. And so at some point, anything that is put into this pool of data or lake or whatever the latest terminology in data analytics is, that will have that available for all of us to contribute to, which I think is hard to get to, but it would be something that would be great. And then we would unleash the entire world to run analytics against what we're doing and have multiple different lenses that can be viewed through versus, the marketing people, like just pushing like, here's a nice rosy view of how we're doing. It's great. Yeah. Right. But certainly as a whole within Catalyst and as a whole within governance, we want our own report card. Like, how are we doing? How is this process doing? Like, oh, that really sucked. Okay, we need to fix it. And be able to make and tune, improvements to the process, improvements to the parameters and metrics. But most of all, make sure that we're capturing the voice and the contributions really from the community from lots of different angles, and make sure that that metadata is captured if we feel like it's important, right? So there's only a lot there, but one of the things I'm interested in, where should the data live? Who has control of it, right? We have pockets of it that are being stood up in IO, but okay, we want to get it out of our system. Where do we put it, right? Okay, do we find a trusted partner? Do we create a decentralized database? That type of technology exists. Do we trust it? Is that the right place for it?
And
right?
do you want to build it? I think is the other question. Like,
is it queryable? Yeah.
Well, is the community eventually going to be able to do this itself, right? Like, that's the other side of this, because I'm in the camp that says IOG shouldn't be doing this. The IOG should be supporting us and whoever else wants to be involved. And we have a long journey ahead to get there, because there's a lot of problems and questions and issues to address. But yeah, it needs to be understood that at some point the community needs to stand on its own feet and have its own systems in place to control and manage and distribute and all this sorts of stuff. So
I totally agree. It's like, there's a certain element. So I mean, right now we have a faucet that's available through some APIs that we're scraping out of Ideascale and sharing that with you guys, right? But that's just part of it. And so right now we have been acting as a central agency, and that we need to find a place to put that. And that could be managed by a group of people. It could be have oversight by people that are outside of IO, and that needs to be sort of explored and developed. But at the end of the day, each of your sites are going to be adding value in different ways, right? There'll be different approaches, and you want your ability to differentiate, feeding from the central pool, but adding your own flavors and presentation, is certainly part of the open world, and you guys should have that creativity to do what you want with it. Ideally, that's starting with a base soup that everyone kind of agrees with, right? That okay, this is permissible and legally available to share. This information has been sanitized and de-anonymized, or anonymized, so that people's privacy can be protected the way that it needs to. So there's only a lot there, and there's no easy solution for this. But I think with amazing smart groups like this, solving the problems will definitely be easier. But anyway, some of my thoughts. I'm a huge fan of data analytics, and I really want to sort of see this made available, and lots of tools sprung up all over the world with different lenses for different reasons, for different communities. So cool.
Thanks, Harris. That's great. Yeah, go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, I just wanted to end on a positive note, really, that Because I noticed your website has some blog posts and stuff like that. It'd be really great if you, and you may be doing this already, is to track and communicate the lessons that you'll learn by doing this. So it's definitely like the process by which you're doing the graphs. It'd be really great if you could document that. It'd be very valuable to other projects, you know, particularly from an auditability perspective. So that's a real positive. There's a big opportunity here as well, because I think we're beginning to see the gaps in terms of, and this is an opportunity to see what data do proposers need to record in order to communicate what they do better. Okay, so you know, if you this has really highlighted like the objective information that we have at the moment may not necessarily communicate what a proposer does well. So if you could think about that, that'd be great as well.
I love it. I was planning to do some articles kind of based on the graphs talking about the process. So thank you.
Yeah, really nice.
That would be a
work on-
great place to other people. Phil, I appreciated your feedback so much, and I wanted to invite you specifically to keep that feedback coming, because starting the conversation is really what these are all about to me. And it's not intended to be uncomfortable. That really is not. That's not anywhere in my intent. What other people do with it is I can't control. I'm not denying responsibility for thinking about it, but it's our data, it's our story, and let's just start the story and keep telling it together. So yeah, thanks everybody.
I guess being responsible, you do need to be responsible. That's my point, I guess, that what people do with it is on you.
Well,
because I can create a data story to tell pretty much anything I want, right? Without telling a complete picture and saying that this is an incomplete picture. I can create any story I want from data. I can just piece it together and go, here, look at all this, right?
Sure, but should we not look at it? Like, we can just not look at it, and then nobody has to say anything about it.
We're right
Let's
there with
look
you.
at it. Yeah.
We're totally there with you. Like, by all means, go spread the information, spread the knowledge, get more participation. These are all valuable goals, and absolutely go ahead and do this for sure.
2 questions to another point. Darlington, Stephanie, how is this financed, what you're doing here? Because I don't think that's a final, that it's a proposal. Huh? So I think you're doing this on a voluntarily basis.
It's not financed, and we currently run at a negative 900 a month.
Okay, so that's one point already where I think when we speak about this stuff, then we have to act on this as well. So that should definitely be support for you very much, because I think what you are doing, and AIMDs are in the very same situation as well, where they have problems to finance the maintenance of the tool simply. And we somehow really, what you are doing is really important, and we have to make sure that you at least have some financial resources as well, I think. So we should definitely catch up for this. And when it's okay for you. And hey, let's set up a proposal for 1.9 already, man. Dude, that's not possible. And second question is, what would you like to see as feedback as well, or like more like a process, how you can improve for maybe also for a long time the platform you are building, and maybe the same to Phil as well, because I think, yeah, what we are doing here right now is a really nice example already, how we can build together and improve the stuff we are building. Maybe also to ask, okay, not let it only be one call, now maybe think about, hey, what would you like to have from the community side as well to support you? Because, hey, you're doing this voluntarily, coming in the call, people sending their wishes to you as granted. So there should come something from the community from both sides to ensure that AIM and I think Leiden Nation, what you are doing here, is supported.
Thanks, Felix. Those were great comments. I think I took a lot of notes. Some of the things that were mentioned is already being worked at. I do feel that responsibility of making sure the data is complete as possible and tells us many different stories as it can, so it's not just one. And I know sometimes you can't really get away still casting an overall lens, even when you're trying to tell and like show different lenses. But we're working on it, and I would like it to be a community thing. I want to open it up to allow to crowdsource some of the auditability of us and our processes that Stephen, is he still on? Stephen, that you mentioned. So I'll probably be reaching out to a lot of you for some ideas around that. If you have specific ideas about that, or if you can point people who are more crafty with data on the analytics side, analysis side of things, that can help in make this as useful as possible, that would be great. And as well, having a conversation with Harris and thinking about like open data API. If the tool starts to collect any additional data, it's my preference that data goes back into some community repository that everybody have access to, that it's not just sitting on Lido's server, right? So having the ability to claim these proposals and like have your group page or whatever, it would be nice if that can go back in either in the repo or in a different repo that has this auxiliary data available to the community. So yeah, that's all I have for the agenda for today. And I am 2.5 hours past my lunch. That's sitting right over there. So I'm gonna go eat, but I appreciate the ideas. Oh, I should take a snapshot of this chat history, and you should see a lot of the changes that were mentioned here in the coming days, right? So this is something I work on almost every day. When I'm done with my day job, I eat, I lay on the couch, and then I work on Catalyst stuff. So you should see some of these changes come in, and keep them coming. We appreciate it, and thanks for seeing the value in it. That was a good thing to know, that the community sees the value in the work. That I'm not just some crazy guy.
We're all crazy guys, though. That's you're in good company.
Yeah, I've got to run too, but thank you, Phil, for like leading the example and building the community and building amazing tools. I definitely, you've been one of the bright shining lights, sort of leading the way. And I think amazing tools are being built by the Lido Nation, and you guys' creativity, I think, is just phenomenal, and definitely want to find ways to support. So I'm happy to set up a side conversation with you folks, or set up a call. I don't know what the best forum to do that is, but
I've emailed you. I can work through to get that happening. Joey and I have been chatting, and we'll bring Darlington and anyone else here that wants to join.
Yeah, Joey, it'd be great to have you there, and anyone else that wants to join. So please jump in. Let us know what kind of info you'd like, and where the gaps are. That would be great. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's great work. You probably incentivize people to do closeout reports.
Yes,
yes, we were doing them for like a month now. So yes, you have incentivized us to
so you've
finish
done
them and get
a
them
great
in.
service there.
I have been committed to checking that closeout spreadsheet daily. I would probably script it, but yes, that would be great to see those proposals turn pink.
Yeah,
Well,
because
thanks, everyone.
you get